little closer. Did you know a well-timed work-appropriate joke can get you remembered, even hired, faster than a perfect resume? I know. Seriously though, humor is scientifically proven to make you appear smarter, more confident, and more trustworthy. In other words, it's gonna be your secret weapon for networking, job interviews, and growing your career overall. No, I am not talking about that's what she said jokes. You probably won't get the job, and you might get a pip. In today's video, I'm going to break down exactly why professional humor with a dash of vulnerability is going to help you land that dream job, secure that awesome mentor, and get that bag. Because let's be real, boring does not get you hired. And you, my friend, are not boring. You just need the right tools to help you stand out. I'm a career coach and I have about a decade worth of experience in the public, private, and not-for-profit sector. I have an 80% success rate from interview to job offer, and I simplify all the overcomplicated crap that people talk about when it comes to career growth. I'm making this video because on top of my credibility and my work ethic, humor has been my secret sauce. And when I say that, the bar is low because many people do not incorporate humor in their career. Do you think I'm funny?
To be honest, as your brother, I don't think you're that funny. But you have your moments when you have really, really good jokes and it makes it worth it.
Yeah. So would you say I could still speak to the topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey!
Do you think I'm funny?
Yes, I think you're very funny.
You're not biased?
I am your mother, but I think you get it from me. And I think I'm hilarious too.
Well, let's get into it. Do you have your paper, pen, coffee? Let's start with why humor scientifically makes you memorable. With the misconception that many people, and likely yourself, believe about humor at work being distracting and unprofessional. Because guess what? Science actually says the opposite. Science says humor signals intelligence. One of the first people to credit his brilliance to his humor is exactly who you think it might be. It's the smartest and goofiest looking guy you can think of. That's right, Albert Einstein. Several studies have consistently found correlations between humor and intelligence. And people instinctively recognize this too. Because being funny requires quick thinking and creativity. Second, humor builds trust and connection. Authors of Humor Seriously, Jennifer Aker and Naomi Bagdonas, found that humor literally changes your brain chemistry. When we show our humor and laugh, our brain releases oxytocin and dopamine hormones, bonding hormones that increase our trust and strengthen connection. They even did a study with Second City, which is a comedy writing company, where they did 2 testimonials. One had a joke in it and the other one was humorless. People actually found that the testimonial with a joke in it was 5% more competent, 11% more confident, and they found it 37% higher in status than the humorless one. It makes sense. When was the last time you saw a testimonial that made a joke or actually had relevance to it versus a bland one? You trusted the one that felt like it had personality to it. Science also says that humor eases stress and boosts your performance. So it's not just for appearance purposes. I don't know if you know this, but laughter quite literally decreases your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your muscle tension, scientifically helping you and the person you're speaking to feel a lot more relaxed. Humor also helps build your memory and your problem-solving skills because it helps activate your reward centers. It protects your mind, it makes you less anxious, it makes you smarter, and it also helps you be more memorable. Like, what does it not do? Now that you understand humor truly belongs in your professional toolkit, I'm going to tell you some hacks on how to implement humor, whether it's in a job interview, it's in networking, or just in your career overall. So let's break down humor at work as a skill. We all know someone that makes a cheesy dad joke at work, and for the love of God, this is not it. The true art of humor at work comes from being intentional, subtle, and authentic. So the first tip is starting with the truth. Not a joke from a joke book. For example, whenever I have tech issues with my computer, I always make IT jokes because honestly, they're low-hanging fruit, but also very relatable. Whenever I'm in a Zoom call and my mic doesn't work or just something isn't working and I have to leave and come back, I always make a joke saying, I promise I'll come back, do not worry. And that's not really haha funny, but it's also like, okay, like that person doesn't take it too seriously. They're not super stressed that their tech isn't working. So in order to start with your truth specific to your industry, whether it's an interview or you're networking, start with an observation. Whether it's in your preparation before the interview or before the networking event, you can also do it within. And when you notice something in someone's background on Zoom, or you notice something at the networking event that's super relatable, that is something that you can use as truth to make a joke about. So that way it doesn't sound cringy, cheesy, or dad joke-like. It's safe to say humorous comments about your observations are a great way to start incorporating humor. Now, this is a great segue to tip number 2, which is be specific and relevant. General jokes typically don't land well. well. For example, anything that has to do about the weather, pretty much avoid those. It's too general and it's like the worst kind of small talk. And if you incorporate a joke in there, it just adds to the mess. A great example is one of my clients was in an interview for a UX UI designer role. And at the very beginning of the interview, classic, they're asked, "How are you?" And I advise this client that this is a great opportunity to have industry humor. And that client responded that they just finished a project that was very densely focused on typography and that they've just found this new love for it. But they also started to resent Comic Sans. And yeah, the interviewer smirked and that client ended up getting the role because at the end of the day, that is industry specific to UI UX and typography for them is a general relevant point. It shows awareness and it builds rapport. Number 3 is what I call the hinge and hook technique. This is a great technique if your humor doesn't fully land or you're worried it's not going to fully land. Essentially, hinge is your humor or wit, and then the hook is a question that you follow it up with. Because even if your humor doesn't land, because let's be honest, we're not trying to get a Netflix special out here, what's more important is your recovery. Do you know how many times you've probably seen a stand-up comic flop on stage, but the recovery was amazing? And then the flop didn't really completely change your perspective about the stand-up comic. That is the point of this technique. Okay, now that you have some tips in your toolkit, I did want to touch a little bit on the topic of vulnerability because your humor will only work if you're willing to embrace some vulnerability. You might know this brilliant woman named Brené Brown, who is one of the top experts when it comes to talking about vulnerability. She simply describes vulnerability as having the courage to show up authentically when you cannot control the outcome. That hits. And that to me makes complete sense because interviews, networking, anything in your career feels very high stakes. You really want to be able to control a positive outcome. But at the end of the day, the people that are most memorable are typically the ones that are most vulnerable. One of my favorite Brené quotes of all time: "Our ability to be daring leaders will never be greater than our capacity to be vulnerable." It is just such a fantastic reminder and gives so much perspective. And just a reminder, vulnerability does not mean oversharing. In fact, it actually means more active listening because you're not trying to overcompensate and prove yourself. And if you're curious where you're at with your vulnerability, Brené Brown actually has a Dare to Lead assessment. It takes literally 5 minutes and it's free. It provides a lot of great insights about where you could have growth and maybe where your strengths are. And I know what you're thinking. It is a little scary to try and understand yourself and be aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are. However, in order to grow, you need to understand where you currently are. Here's a little bonus to this video. I have created a cheat sheet to help you incorporate more humor in job interviews or networking. Because on top of your work experience and your credibility, it's good to be prepared in other ways. A lot of the time for things to come off authentically, it does require a little preparation. In this cheat sheet, you are going to create one insight or observation, one humorous comment, and then one follow-up question. You could either do this before or during. I like to do it before interviews when I look up the person that's interviewing me or the company and start filling those boxes out. That's it. That is why humor is scientifically proven to help you be memorable in job interviews or networking events and help you land that job and get that bag. And if you found this valuable and you see results in your career by incorporating humor at work, subscribing, liking, commenting, I hear actually adds 5% to your comedic timing. Don't quote me on that. Thanks for watching. I post career growth videos every Tuesday, so until then, I will see you next week. See you, soldier.